Hello and welcome to a new project here on the Nerdattude Entertainment channel, which we are aptly titling Nerdattude Presents TV Diaries. This series
it's a great title.
Thank you. Rescue Us. We are going over Rescue Me. Hi, by the way, I am Matt, and I am with... Say your names, people.
I'm Jen, Mrs. Nerdattude.
Go ahead.
I'm Alex.
Okay.
Why is he pointed down?
Which way am I pointing?
I'm Giovanni from the original podcast. I'm a side piece Nerdattude. So.
We'll talk about that
Surprise,
later.
Motherfuckers!
As I said, we are doing Rescue Me, a show that premiered in 2004, went until 2011. Basically, I mean, as it's at its core, it's the story of these firefighters dealing with the trauma of 9/11 as well as trying to keep their lives from falling apart. I think is really one of the best ways to describe it. This is the first watch for Alex and Jen.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is also something that's not talked about a lot with firefighters in general. They put their lives through so much shit that we don't see them do. All we think is like, oh, they go and spray a hose on a fucking water, or spray water on a fucking fire. But they actually have a lot of traumatizations that happened with the stuff that happens inside.
Well,
you don't get to see it.
It's also easy as like a non-firefighter or a citizen, civilian, whatever, to be like, all you guys do is, you go to car crashes and if there's no fire, you go back and then you sleep.
Yeah, that's true.
There's that stigma of like, most of your job isn't even fighting fires. It's for calls where you don't have to do anything. And it's like, there is that part of it, but like, I mean...
what they also don't realize too is, yeah, that's what happens. But they also as soon as they get back, they get a phone call. They got to go out again. As soon as they get back, they got another call. So they sleep at the place.
Yeah.
They work fucking 3 days on.
Well, that's why they call, it's not a shift, it's a tour. Because like isn't it structured to where you have guys that basically you have dudes that do the weekend full stream Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then are off until Thursday or something like that too.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of their tours are odd because it's like you have to have people there. It's all about those bodies there to do the job. When, I mean, fires just don't not happen because it's 3 a.m.
And also like a lot of missed calls or what do you call those type of calls where people call it in, say there's a fire, they show up and it's, it was just somebody's toaster.
Well, think about it. I mean, tell me if you get on a serious accident on the expressway at 1 a.m, sirens aren't one of the best sounds you can hear.
Yeah. And most people don't notice that the first people to show up to an emergency are firefighters. So they see the worst of the worst before it's taken apart and handled.
Which I really appreciate that this show heavily highlights that fact.
Yeah.
That is a big part of Dennis Leary's trauma. I mean, he's literally carrying ghosts with him.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I wanted to point out, and Matt and I spoke about this when we were just watching the first few episodes, was the clothing, like their uniforms. So, I mean, when they're at the firehouse, they're in their dress pants, whatever, their work pants, and then they've got their shirts on. When they get a call for a fire, they don't get to take that off. They have to keep that on, put on their flame-resistant pants and their suits, all on top of what they were originally wearing too. So imagine, you're wherever in the world you are as a firefighter, living, working, whatever the temperature is, say it's a hot summer day, you've got those clothing articles on top of your flame resistant suits going into a burning building.
I'm pretty sure their packs, including the tanks and everything, are like 50, 60 pounds on top of it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, weight and temperature wise, that's a lot for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a kid, you could actually go get a tour of the firehouse. I don't know now during COVID, but my youngest kid was able to do it, and they were actually able to put just the jacket and the helmet on one of the kids, and the kid was like, falling down to their knees because it was just the hat and the jacket itself was pushing them down. So you can imagine this shit's really heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the main show is focused on Dennis Leary, who is a firefighter, a 9/11, a firefighter who was in 9/11. The show starts off with a new rookie class being kind of indoctrinated into the firefighter community. I think somebody died upstairs, and
they call them probies.
Yeah, probies. And Dennis Leary isn't even their commander or anything. He's just given a speech. They brought him in to basically tell these boys they ain't shit. And he tells them, he's got photos of the dead firemen. He gets, I lost 4 guys from my house, including my cousin. If you think you're shit, you're nothing. He is his character is the type that goes, I'm not a fucking hero. Don't call me that. I do my job. And that's kind of him.
If you came here to be a hero, then you're in the wrong place. Yeah.
And I do love the fact that each main cast member you give a shit about.
Yes, from the beginning.
Yeah,
immediately connected.
And they're all individual. They've all got problems. The first episode establishes Dennis Leary is a recovering alcoholic. Their chief is a compulsive
relapsed alcoholic.
Mm-hmm. His chief is a gambling addict.
Yep.
You've got Franco, who is, I guess you could classify him as a sex addict.
The gambling addict is actually, he was a real firefighter too in the Bronx.
Nice. Yeah, I thought I remember reading about. He's been in several movies, but it's like I can't ever remember what I've seen him in, but I know he's been in other movies.
Yeah. His character so far is also somewhat homophobic. He's not
somewhat. He doesn't talk to his son, who is also a firefighter, because he's gay. That comes out
very homophobic.
So once again, this is the first 6 episodes of the show. So we're going to bounce around in between. His character arc goes into it because basically a story comes out where an ex-firefighter is going to name names of firefighters who were or are gay, including he's going to out them, including 9/11 deaths, 9/11 firefighter deaths.
Yeah.
Also, there's that character who I can't remember his name. He's the quiet firefighter. He doesn't say much.
Lou?
He's a little bit older. Is it Lou?
No, the one who they're alluding to is gonna die because he's got some sort of disease. Yeah, the guy who keeps getting the calls from the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's technically a main character, but he doesn't have much screen time, and I think that's for a purpose because I think his death is gonna be kind of like a. Oh, by the way, you know what I mean? Because he's in it, but he's not. Not like Lou, not like Dennis Leary, not like Franco, not like Proby, not like Chief. Hell, by the way, the end of the first episode, did you guys watch throughout the credits? After the credits, there's a 45 to a minute long scene.
The after credit scene
where the chief eats the cookie.
Yeah.
And he goes to spit it out and then drinks the piss cup.
Yeah.
We were just talking
for the hepatitis test.
We were just talking and the credits were rolling. I was like, "What the fuck? I've never seen this before."
Then he looks in the bag and he's like, "What the fuck?"
And it's got the name of the guy,
the doo and the piss.
But to Matt's point, and I've talked to Matt about this and Anthony off before we recorded. Episode 1 shows like this need to do episode 1s, your introduction episode. Like this is the best introduction episode I've ever seen
because they really throw you into it with very little explanation, and it's like it's not needed. The writing is so well done that the situations that they're in the first episode kind of explains where everybody is right now.
So since you brought that up, I'm just going to read the summary real quick for episode 1. So episode 1's title is Guts. The summary of it is Tommy Gavin, which is Dennis Leary, is a firefighter and father who's struggling to cope with the daily turmoil of his life. After his wife, Janet, leaves him, Tommy moves into a house across the street from her to stay close to their 3 children.
Super fucked, yeah.
However, the proximity of their relationship is difficult. Tommy isn't dealing very well with his estranged wife dating other men and using his kids as spies, paying them to divulge information about Janet's activities. Life-wise, the stress of his job is starting to get to him. Tommy is haunted by the memories of September 11th and even hallucinates the ghosts of the family and friends he lost. His subconscious manifests itself in the images of these former firefighters, predominantly his cousin Jimmy, who he often confides in. Tommy works hard to conceal his feelings from his firehouse buddies, even though many of them are still suffering as well.
Thank you for
Wyatt
saying
Jones.
Thank you for saying Jimmy, because Jimmy's Max Payne, goddammit.
Yeah.
I love that. You could hear it too every time he talks. It's so great. But he literally is wearing ghosts on his sleeve. There is, I don't remember one of the episodes we just watched, I think it might be episode 6, where his guys are starting to see a little bit of it. And Lou even makes a comment of like, Tommy's solid. I don't want to see that later. And Yeah, do you want to explain that scene?
So in that episode, it's where they get a call for a fire. They go up. There's reports of a child. So they heard noises. So Tommy thinks that he still hears this child, but he's with what was the other firefighter he was with?
Franco.
Was it Franco?
Yes, Franco. Yeah. He was with Franco. Franco's like, I don't hear anything. But then he gets down and he sees that there's a little girl. So because he has these PTSD issues, where he does see these lost people from.
Well, doesn't just see, he communicates and interacts.
Right, he communicates.
With them. And here's
does he see that, or is it actually happening?
Well, here's my thing, right? And I'm gonna let you finish, but she told him her name, and something they don't do is they never cross-reference it. Like, there's never a scene of like, well, that little girl's name was this. So it's like, if they would have done that, that would have confirmed what's going on. Is he crazy or is it real?
Yeah. But so he has this full out conversation with this little girl, asking her, what her favorite ice cream is, where she replies Moose Tracks, and he goes into detail about what's in Moose Tracks. He asks her about
Chunky
what
bar.
favorite candy bar. Yeah, she replies Chunky Bar. And then even Franco had mentioned, he was talking about Chunky bars.
Lou said that.
Oh, Lou, yes.
Yeah, and by the way, Chunky Bar is an old man chocolate bar.
It is.
That's like a chocolate bar that like old people remember getting as a kid. My dad's, I like Chunky Bar. He's that type of shit.
But so that's that scene.
That is really where Lou mentions where he's like, I don't like seeing that sort of shit happen, like him crying.
Yeah.
Like, and then to the point where he has that little argument because the chief sends him home for the day, for the tour. And he's like, you're talking to dead girls, go home. Like,
he didn't fight him off because he knew, like, fuck,
well, he knows he's fucked. I mean, he's seeing, literally, he goes to his house and the first thing is there is that little dead girl's ghost is sitting at his counter.
But then you gotta wonder if when he does, because in that same episode, he goes back to the church, which he frequently visits, and he lights a candle. Church, So is he lighting the candle, saying a prayer for her, then putting her at peace in his mind to where he no longer sees her?
Well, see, that's the where they don't explain it. Where is it? Did he pray her away and make her whole, or did he remove her from the conscious only for now?
I don't think so. I don't know if you guys noticed. So through that episode, through the whole little girl, there's a point where he doesn't see the little girl anymore. Yeah, like you don't see the little girl anymore, and I think it was because when he went to his wife and he's like, "Hey, do what you need to do." I think it's because not that he did a good deed, but he did something to kind of humanize himself again. Yeah. Because through this series, when you follow these firefighters and their own little issues, Tommy, the main character you follow, you can tell he's purposely detached because of the shit he's seen and experienced.
I do want to say though, don't forget the scene where he sneaks into the church and says the prayer. The way they framed it,
that was for his daughter, right?
No. That was after it all went down when he said
that was for the little girl.
That was for the little girl. So
when he came back, he's like, I got one more request.
Is he praying for her peace and getting it, or is it nothing more than he's praying her out of his mind? Is she at peace in his head, or is he actually seeing ghosts? Like, that's the thing. It's clearly mental trauma, but they leave it a little bit oblique because you don't, it's not. He's seeing them. I mean, cousin Jimmy says, hey, remember that little girl? Well, she's gone. She's disappeared. So his other ghosts are seeing and interacting with these ghosts as well, which once again is that all the mental spectrum. It's got to be a self-conscious, but it still has very real. I mean, once again, the little girl gave her his name. I would have loved to seen somebody like, hey, that little girl's name was this. You remember you asked me about it? Because then that would confirm, well, how the fuck would he know her name if he didn't actually talk to the spirit?
Okay, that's true. Yeah.
But it could be something where he is making amends with his own stuff and trying to cope with life that he sees. And that's why she's gone, because he does tell his wife. But then it flips. He goes back to saying, find out where he's at. Go ahead and arrest him, press charges on him. Pretend like you're going to fucking put him in the tank for beating me up and shit.
Oh yeah, so
it's kind of like goes back and forth on that.
Yeah,
is it that
the ex-wife is dating this like business stiff.
I don't like that character.
No, I don't like him either. And basically, there's a moment like
I don't like Franco either. But
Tommy doesn't like him. He's fucking Tommy's wife and Tommy's ex-wife, and they're separated. They're not divorced, and Tommy still loves her. You know, he lives literally across the street. Like they separated. He agreed to move out, and then went and fucking got a house across the street. So this new guy comes in, and there's towards the middle of the first 6 episodes, he starts to when Colleen gets into the car accident, he's starting to try to assert himself more and more, and makes the mistake of stepping into Tommy's home to kind of give him the old, you need to give us our privacy. It's our life. You're out. You're done. She's over you, and ends up getting his face put to the gas burner on the stove and threatened, which then leads to what Alex was referencing.
That's something right there where fucking Roger, if he would have slapped him back, I think Tommy would have had a little more respect for him, and he probably would have backed off a little bit.
I don't think so. I think Tommy's the type of guy that would have justified killing him because he stepped into his home.
Yeah, but I'm saying like before, like when he like even at the hospital, just
as he's eating his Chinese food and he steps in, he just looks at him like, this motherfucker, really?
But I think he was kind of looking for him to see if he's got any balls to be a part of his family in a way.
Oh, see, I took it as he wanted to alpha this motherfucker as far away as possible.
Yeah.
These guys are very much in society as we've evolved as a species. You were a man, and men did the hard shit. They did the heavy lifting, the hunting, and I get that aspect in a lot of these firefighters, the way they don't want to be in touch with their feelings.
Well, when the psychiatrist calls and talks about female firefighter, it's like, I don't care if he's a Martian, if he's a Chinaman, whatever he is, as long as they can do the job.
And that's where the show really, really pulls you in for emotion, because all the other firefighters are standing outside that door, listening to him emotionally break down about the shit he sees.
Well, that's the story about that's one of his ghosts, the young black boy who his skin came right off and he died 3 months later.
Instead of making fun of him about it later in the series, you can see it in all their faces. And this is just key to good acting. Like, they felt it too. They're like, fuck.
Well, they've been there. I mean, and I believe and this is ahead in the series, but I believe at one point or another, you basically get insight into each one of these characters' darkest kind of like moments as a firefighter. And, 9/11, and that's one of the things he says. He's like, forget about 9/11. And he tells her a story of another just random call that, and that's the thing
he got what it was the little boy he finally got downstairs who was dead.
Yeah, he was slipping around
his skin kept falling off,
and he died 3 months later. And like the thing about it is like
for a firefighter,
for a firefighter to know that kid died 3 months later means he looked into it.
Yeah,
it never left him. And that this show does a really good job. I mean, every episode does a really good job of stressing like every one of these people has scars. Every one of these men. Look at Lou with his poetry. He's trying to figure out a way to express the sadness he has from 9/11. And his wife tells him it's the worst fucking poetry she's ever.
Shit, man.
That's literally the woman from Men in Black. Edgar. He was an Edgar suit. Yeah.
He's an Edgar suit. She is horrible.
She totally rips him apart on that. She's like, it's fucking horrible.
And then you've got the chief where he goes into the gay bar to confront the guy, and he doesn't know it's a gay bar because he's ignorant. And
I have a question about that. Like, I know the concept was, because the chief is clearly. He doesn't like gay people.
No, his son. He has no relationship with his son because he's gay.
However, the chief also mentioned stuff in that article, and I think the chief mentions like you said shit that wasn't true. Like those were good men who did things, and I think what the gay firefighter did was take claim to certain heroic actions that other firefighters have done.
But a part of it though is also there is the chief is going, why the fuck would you do this to their families? Like the whole thing is like these guys are dead. Why drag their name? Because in his mind, saying these guys are gay is basically saying they're murderers. Like it's the same equivalence.
Is that the first reference to Patty Brown in that bar? Because when he tells him that he went out the window and swung around the rope. And he goes, that wasn't you, that was Patty Brown. So that was an actual firefighter that died.
Yes, it was, who lost his life in 9/11.
And they use him throughout the time.
Yeah.
I was reading that. But that's what I think that's what it was he keeps using all these stories of all these people that can't corroborated anymore because they're dead, and except for the other firefighters that were there with him.
I do believe his intention of going to that bar wasn't violence. I believe his intention
to confront him
was like, hey, you're talking shit about some heroes, and like it's really fucked up what you're doing. You need to knock it off. And the guy did swing on him.
Yeah, whether they were or not, you shouldn't talk about them because they're not here to defend themselves.
But the problem is, as much as you want to try to like
family.
him, you have the son at the end who stands up for him, says, my father doesn't hate gays. How do you know? He outs himself in the courtroom, and then he still won't introduce him to the crew. And it's just
Which
like...
was a nail in the coffin.
You know,
or he didn't tell his own wife that his son was in town.
Yeah. Well, that's because he didn't tell her that he probably didn't tell her he had a thing or anything. He probably didn't tell her he wrote in fax, stick this up your ass. Which is,
hilarious.
Which is the wrong thing to say if you're going in for...
Take the 60-day suspension, sit at home, and then come back strong.
Was it 60 or was it 30 with 7-day pay?
It was 60, and they were 60, and they were going to take... No, that's what they said it might be. But the actual verdict was 60 days and then 7 days vacation removed.
Yep.
But
7 days vacation.
By going to trial and having his kids stick up for him, he scot free. Like even to get the suspension reversed. So it worked out well for him, but it's once again, these guys, they're figuring out how to, in their career, how to manage while he's disconnecting from his family even more. He doesn't tell his wife what's actually going on. She's oblivious. His son, they have no relationship because even though his son bailed him out and saved his entire career, still doesn't accept that he's gay, still won't introduce him to his crew. Which this isn't the only time they go over that topic. Yeah. It's his character throughout. But
what's so hurtful about that scene though is that you can clearly tell in his son's sentence, because his son tells him, next time you beat up another gay man, don't call me to bail you out.
Yeah. Right.
And he still has that love and respect for his father. And I think that comes from the firefighter side as opposed to the father-son relationship.
You can tell that he loves his son too, but it's that idea of like he's so conflicted by his son being gay that his stubbornnness and his ego, he can't get over those in order to...
Because at the end of that one episode, he sees the picture on the fridge of his son in a football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and he starts...
And that's the part of it is like, you could tell that he's the type of dude who like loves his kid. It's his only boy, but just that part of bigotry in him will not go away. It's just, it's there.
And unfortunately, it's like that in some of the firehouses that I've been a part of, like that I've talked to people. A lot of it is like that. And it's more so of they don't have a filter.
Well, think about what this show got away with. I mean, how many times did you hear fag, or they said kike, or they said all the racial slurs? Like, this show got away with a lot.
And it wasn't, keep in mind, for its time, it was not an HBO show.
Basic cable.
It was not a Star show. Yeah, this is basic cable.
Yeah. I mean, how many times did Dennis Leary and that blonde chick clap cheeks? It's like, there's a lot of random nudity. Like, it's The Shield made the foundation. And Rescue Me and shows like Rescue Me and Always Sunny and all these FX shows took it and ran with it. Mm-hmm. And then they're part of the reason why the cable TV shows are bigger than movies now. Because this is what they were doing look what they do now. I mean, there's no limits. You have people walking through the town being shamed naked. Like, that all can happen because of things like The Shield and Sopranos and Rescue Me. Like, that's just the truth of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they paved the way for real. Absolutely. So can we talk about how shitty Franco,
with the
how
daughter?
Shitty of a father Franco is? Like, what the fuck, dude? Like,
just from the beginning of his introduction, I found him shitty.
Well, no, it's not that. It was where it got me, where he's like, I'm feeling bad. He took her to a fucking adoption agency. Then he does the good thing when he goes to pick her up. Like, I just want to make sure she's cool.
I call that the Walter Matthau scene. If you think about Dennis the Menace, after he yells at him and he's just like walking around his porch like, And then it's the memory of like, I don't want to ever see you again. And it's in the background. And he's just like, and then he gets up out of his chair and he's like, I'm going, Martha. That's what that scene was.
And I thought he's like, okay, he's going to be a dad. We're going to watch this like struggle, watch him come up. He's like, he's like, hey, Ma, take care of the kid. I can't have this. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, but is Grandma's house a better situation than the foster home that she was in? I say yes.
But I also thought about it this way too. his lifestyle at this point, and not with the women, I mean like a firefighter
I'll
lifestyle.
say he at least understands that right now he is not capable of raising this child.
100%.
Yes,
So rather than leaving her in the foster care, like he at least felt it. Like, to be fair to the guy, he didn't know he had a kid until a week ago. You know, so it's like
after 5 years,
the most responsible thing you could probably do, rather than trying to raise her in a lifestyle that obviously is hard, is to Unfortunately, the way the foster care systems works is you do have people that have several that don't love them; they're for the paycheck and
take it for the paycheck, yeah.
You know, and so when he saw that, there was at least enough decency in him to go, "No, fuck this. This is like he's literally hitting her and yelling at her." Now, kidnapping her, not maybe the smartest thing to do. Maybe you know.
That was.
But once again, what Tommy's brother explains to him, he's like, "Did they bust down your door?" And he's like, "No." And he's like, then they're not gonna. I love the fact that Mayhem is in this, by the way.
So now that we're talking about him, we should probably state that Tommy's brother, was his name Johnny, right? Johnny works for the New York Police Department.
Yeah, he's a detective.
He is a detective, so he's got some pull there.
He's not in Law and Order.
No, he's not. No. He's one of those like not. He's not a dirty cop, or at least so far they don't show him as a dirty cop. But he's definitely a cop.
Does favors.
He loves his power.
Yeah.
So one of the first favors that he does for Tommy is hooking him up with Damien, who is his nephew. Is
Tommy's godson.
Or his cousin.
That's Jimmy's son who died. Yeah.
Hooking up with him to help out because Damien is this hacker wizard. So he hooks him up with him to kind of just basically fuck up Roger's life.
Yeah, the ex-wife's boyfriend. Yeah.
Yes, Janet's boyfriend,
who by the way, she's a good-looking gal. Like even her
much better than Karen.
Yeah, much better than that bar whore he got. But she's also much. And I'm going to compare this to Breaking Bad. She's got a bit of that crazy, like Breaking Bad wife did, where it's almost like that strong. There's a certain point where if she gets on the "fuck you, Tommy," it's hard to get her off of it. Like it's almost like if he fucks up once, it's like right back into digging out that hole again. You know. Mm-hmm. And at least how they portray it so far. I mean, the scene where Karen, we finally learn her name, is the scene where the ex-wife comes over to kind of start to make amends and maybe reconcile, start the discussions.
It's Lauren, Nancy.
And he calls it, this is Lauren. And he's like, shit, I knew it was Nancy. Like, you don't, like, right in front of her, you know? But once again, can the wife be upset about that?
No, she can't.
Like, how is that fair?
Because at the same time, she was having a relationship with another man, and they're
legally still married. Yeah, they're still married.
Exactly.
They do allude to him having sexual intercourses before.
Well, I think that was the whole thing. Is he was a drunk and he cheated on her and never home. But he does have a point when he says, "I'm working 3 jobs to support your house and everything
to pay your bills."
He does have some point there. As big as a piece of shit as he probably was during what everything, but still he is saving lives to pay the bills, and you're asking him for money and
building decks for people.
I mean, she just as a wife, she's not very supportive with him. I mean, you have a man who selflessly puts his life on the line every day by doing what he does. He had to experience the horrors of 9/11. He's going through something he doesn't want to get help for. He doesn't feel that he needs help for. And she could not be supportive towards him at all. Like just offering emotional support, like talking him through his stresses and that.
Well, look at how everybody else treats him when they find out he's a firefighter. It's like, oh, you're a firefighter. Thank you for what you do.
It's like he's on a pedestal.
Yeah, in his own home, it's fuck you. What do you think you are, a hero? Like it's got that okay. Everybody else outside, like the women he meets, oh, you're a firefighter. But his wife is like, I don't give a shit.
Every jab she takes at him is, you are never home. You're never around. And it's like, well, I am building this life for us. I'm saving other people's lives, you know? It's just,
but the other thing
it's not fair on her end.
He's also an alcoholic, I think, is where the real issues come in.
That's probably where all the issues come from.
And with that said, with his attitude, his behavior, she doesn't understand that, the horrors he's seen take into effect of how he's behaving. And you're right, there has to be a level of understanding there, but at the same time, he turned off the lights and dug into some darkness to kind of deal with it. And I feel that Tommy's character knows that what he did and what he does affects others pretty harshly. And you can see it when he's out with his brother's wife or his widow. He's drinking ginger ale, he's watching her get drunk, and the look on his face is like, shit, that's kind of fucked up, In
the same token, he's got that look of like, I could use a drink right now as well.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
But you've got to think, so is he, I guess he's not drinking because he's trying to keep up the illusion that he's
in front of other people,
sober.
Yeah, no.
But on another hand, it's like, if he didn't want to show that, would he be drinking because he wanted something to happen, or would he still not be drinking because he didn't want anything to happen?
I think he drinks. He's an alcoholic, so that that addictive behavior comes with it. But part of it is he drinks to try to suppress the horror. Part of it is there's probably the way his character thus far comes off is it's almost like that's his like woosah. Like he takes swigs before going into buildings. Things like that, because that's how he brings the system down so it doesn't overrun itself.
There was like that one conversation he was having with Jimmy, his cousin, that he's like, oh, now you're going to start drinking? He goes, well, the way I'm seeing it is you're not here. Neither is this. But when his kid comes down, he doesn't have the drink in his hand. So it's like, is he drinking all the time? Or is it just sometimes?
I will say the scenes at night when he fills the entire goddamn pint glass up with Jameson.
Oh my God.
Holy fuck.
And I think though, because I've noticed that, I think he drinks when he's alone, because he thought the kids were asleep. I think he drinks when he's alone, like absolutely alone.
It's a definite
and being overwhelmed. Yeah,
because like he throws all the bottles away and then gets into a fight with the ex, and next thing you know, that bag's out of the
trash can, getting the bag. Yep.
Yeah.
Which when that scene where he was bagging up all of the alcohol, I was like, why isn't he just dumping it down the drain? Because he wants to go and pull it back out of the trash later.
That's his fail-safe. If you don't, it's literally making the action without planning on following through. Otherwise, he would have dumped it.
So there's an episode where Tommy's daughter gets into a car accident.
Oh,
and you allude to this earlier in the series where he has a dream of like his whole family was annihilated.
That's the opening. That's the opening scene of the first episode.
Yeah, and it's him, and he wakes up, and it's later on in it. His daughter does get into an accident. He does respond to a scene where it is one of his family members, and then he gets it. He goes at his wife's name's Karen. Right? I get the women mixed up.
Janet.
No, Janet's the wife. Karen was
the
name finally revealed in episode 6 of the chick.
He does go in on his wife Janet is like, you fucking let her do what she wants. You give her what she wants. You need to. And I'm sorry to say, I'm kind of on his side a little bit.
Well, not only that, but is he wrong in going, I'm working 80 hours a week as a firefighter. You're only concerned about being able to go on dates, and because I'm working, but he's got his own faults, but he does have kind of a point where it's like, you wanted them to live with you. She's under your roof. She's got a fucking tattoo. She's going out with this boy. You had no idea she was gone. So there is some legitimacy to him basically being like, you're more worried about getting dick than your family, and it needs to fucking stop. The problem is the reverse of that is when he's not on his tour, he's fucking this blonde chick. He's drinking. He's taking the Jimmy's wife out to dinner. Like, he's not exactly wholesome, but he does have a point in saying, like, you're more worried about your personal relationships than you are taking care of these kids. And I'm working at the firehouse. So there is some legitimacy to that, but, grabbing her and slamming her up against the glass at the hospital, I get the anger. Believe me, I'd be angry too. I would have that sort of, especially in that separated situation of that, like, you fucking should have known. Like, I told her, but once again, the wife goes, I told her no, and he goes, I told her no too. And how are you supposed to go at the wife more for if you both kind of had the same situation with the daughter?
He's also still using that as an ulterior motive of getting Roger out of the picture too.
In season 6,
which is the shitty part.
Or in episode 6, he kind of succeeds because he does beat up Roger. Roger's 3 friends come through and they kick the shit out of him after a drunken night at the bar.
He doesn't necessarily beat up Roger. He does smack him around.
He doesn't fuck him up, but he scares him pretty good.
Yeah, and the threat with the stove, that's probably the part that's the worst part. But just slapping him around, I've had fights where they were one-sided like that, where somebody started some shit and I usually smack the shit out of them.
Well, and that's where it goes from, like, where his brother comes in to kind of scare Roger.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, comes in.
Where basically he brings him in, and like, the thing about it is he does confess. He's like, oh, I didn't hire them. They were just 3 guys from work, and it's like...
They were just my 3 friends, yeah.
But you're still associated with them, and they beat up a fucking New York firefighter who happens to have a brother on the force. By the way, the Cousin Priest.
Mm-hmm.
What movie was Cousin Priest in that was terrible?
I can't remember his name.
He was in a movie that I like called Thinner.
Oh.
He was the main guy.
Yep.
He's RoboCop in RoboCop 3.
Okay.
What?
That's who came in to be RoboCop in RoboCop 3.
Oh my god.
But the cousin and the Cousin Priest becomes more like throughout the show. All of these characters that you kind of get tastes of, like the brother, the cousin, they become more integral as the show goes on. But in these first 6 episodes, they are kind of like one-off players. Like, as of right now, you don't know how much the Cousin Priest is going to be in that. You figure that maybe it'll be his, when I go to the church to pray for these ghosts or whatever, I'll talk to him. But also you have the Irish Catholic thing. That's deep rooted in them, basically, and that goes further in this show. But so far, they've treated it very much as like he's not religious, but he was raised tight Irish Catholic, so it's still got, it's still there. Basically, he may not believe anymore, but he still believes of doing the prayer, maybe trying to make peace with the old big guy sort of thing.
And with that, you've got to remember that, New York, it still is a very hot spot for, immigration, but you did see a lot of other immigrants coming to flee from religious persecution, things like that, just trying to get away from all that. So
let's be fair, the Irish were persecuted purely because they were Irish. People don't talk about this, but even in the United States, we talk about how we segregated black folk from white folk. We don't talk about how there was signs on windows of places hiring that would say, if Irish need not apply. The Irish in this country were treated very, very badly, especially in the industrial era. And the reason why the U.S. was so... People reference that. Well, what about back in the day when we wanted immigrants? Well, you know why the immigrants were wanted? Because they needed fucking slave labor. They needed labor that could run the industrial sex on the cheapest house. Go read The Jungle. That'll tell you what you need to know. And that's the truth of it. And we treated them like shit. So the Irish in this country have not had it easy. And nobody talks about it. We treated them badly.
Yeah.
So have the Yugoslavians and all. Eastern European immigrants that came over were Italian immigrants. Those were the immigrants coming over working slave labor to try to get. It still was a better family or a better life for their family, despite the fact that they were 18 hours in fucking these horrible conditions, had horrible, 15 people living in apartments, which this show still talks about.
Yep.
That show Hell on Wheels also did that with about the railway.
The Chinese, yeah.
Yeah, they used Irish and Chinese for different things.
Yeah, and that's the truth of it is we, as a country, we've treated the Irish very badly historically. Sorry, Jen.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that, because of it being set in New York City, you do see a lot of that heavy Irish Catholic community presence. And one thing that the wife had mentioned about, because Tommy at one point, he found a pamphlet about somewhere in California, because she was talking about moving to California with Roger, where she specifically said, because there were neighbors outside trying to see if everything was okay in one episode or one scene. And she's like, this is why I need to get away from this shit. In the south side of Chicago or lately anywhere in Chicago, you rely on your neighbors to look out for you. Like, why wouldn't you want your neighbors to look out for you?
No, what she was saying was that's a whole firefighter community. So a lot of them are retired or they're still firefighters.
She's tired of being in the firefighter culture. Yeah. She doesn't want to be a firefighter's wife.
Because a lot of the other wives are fake to her, and that's one of the things that she didn't like about that.
And here's my theory of why that is because think about the community. Think of how Tommy has that sort of like, oh, that's Tommy, dude. That's Tommy Gavin. Like, you don't like, he's a legend. You don't fuck with him. So there probably is a certain, like, the other house, like, and I think even Sheila and her at some point do have an argument or discussion about basically, like, you got to be Tommy Gavin's fucking wife. You got to be the big man on campus's queen.
I think that's later.
Yeah, it's later, but it's definitely, and I don't even think it's this season. Throughout the show that happens at some point. But I think that's kind of the image they're portraying of him in the first 6 episodes of, like, is in his mind he's doing a job. But certain people are like, no, that's Tommy, bro. Like, look at Lou's reaction of just like when Tommy's starting to show that he's seeing dead people. Lou is freaked out. Like Tommy don't do that shit. Lou is shaken by the fact that Tommy was talking to a dead girl. He is visibly like, what the fuck, man?
Well, he basically said like we can't have our best go out.
Yeah.
Like we can't have it happen.
Yeah, like Tommy to them is Captain fucking America, and Captain America just went down on one knee. Like. If he sets the tone,
that goes back to my first interaction with Franco in this show. He tells Tommy that he's losing his balls because of this, and instead of telling him, hey, maybe if you need to talk to somebody, just do it. But he's like, no, you're losing your balls. You think you got to talk to somebody? He's like, who the fuck are you?
Well, if you notice, they don't cut each other the whole crew. There is no mixed words. Like when Franco's like, he's like, so you kidnapped her? Like there is no like softness to these guys. Like they tell you what they think and that's it. And I think that's very genuine in the writing of just like, Tommy is the sort of guy that'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? You went and kidnapped her? Like, how are you supposed to raise her? You can barely take care of your fucking self. Like, the poor Proby.
My God!
And when the piss and they're like, is that human or animal? And like, give us a taste, Proby. And they all just straight face his ass, like we're waiting.
Wait for him to do it.
But then if you notice, once the Proby gets his first save, they're slightly more respectful to him. By the way,
are they?
Well, a little bit. Like there is, like Proby got his first one. There is a certain echelon you hit. I'd assume, especially in that brotherhood of like, yeah, you're a Proby, but you did save a life. Like, you're technically a hero. Don't ever fucking say it, but you're a hero.
I kind of felt bad for him with the Nightingale thing. The one that he did save.
The weirdo?
Because so while watching that, I was just like, is this guy gay? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then when
he's in good shape.
They introduce his fiance, it's like, okay, they want a threesome.
Who's way out of that guy's league.
And we're only halfway through the season. I am interested to see how that fully develops. But the first 6 episodes are great. The first episode of mine, I texted you guys when I was watching it. I feel it's one of the best first episodes in any show ever.
It delivers. It gives you a little bit of information, but enough to know that you know what's going on. You connect to every character immediately.
Yes.
And they bring that home. Like, it's really well done.
I told Jen, I go, your favorite character is going to be Lou, because he's my favorite character.
Thus far, he is a solid character.
I mean, the whole
genuine guy.
Well, I love it because the whole first 6 episodes is leading to the fact that Lou is trying to find an outlet for his sadness, and they make it seem like he's going soft. And then he goes into the group and he finds out one by one.
And he's not soft
that none of these people were actually impacted by 9/11. And
one of them was it Paris or something?
Yeah, Paris. And he's like, but I had a cousin who had a friend who their boyfriend knew somebody, and it's like, he's just like, are you kidding me? Like, you see Lou and his manliness.
Smoke.
Yeah, the manliness of like, I was fucking pulling my friends out of there. Like you were in Paris. Like he just has that complete like fuck this, fuck the poetry. Like Lou, he's always got this stogie. I love Lou because he's always smoking a fucking cigar. And here's
the chief.
No, Lou's got
that's Jerry.
Lou's always got a stogie too.
No, Lou's always cooking.
Lou's always cooking.
Oh yeah, Lou is always cooking.
But Lou likes his cigar. Maybe it's later in the show, but Lou is another cigar guy too.
I think Jerry Riley always has the cigar. Like, always.
There wasn't a scene where Lou.
What did I call him?
You know what it is? Okay, I'm going too far ahead. The Lou cigar thing is later on. I'm sorry. My mind is now because I haven't watched this movie or this show in over a year at least. I remember I watched it because I didn't know Jen would dig it, and it was one of those shows where I started watching it at like midnight after she went to bed, and it quickly became like every second that she wasn't awake and we weren't hanging out, I was fucking watching Rescue Me. This show, I mean,
it was like any chance, like, hey, you want to go take a nap? You want to take a nap? You want to go?
Oh, I was all in. I was like, I need to watch more Rescue Me, like right fucking now.
It's good, yeah. Like we're doing
a really good show.
For the viewers, we're cutting most of the season in half. You'll see 1 to 2 episodes per season.
Per season, yeah.
And I got through 6 episodes. When I got through the 6th episode and it ended, I'm like, and it's going to start the 7. I stopped it. I'm like, fuck, I already blew through 6 episodes. Like, I wanted to continue. And it's so hard not to.
I was about to keep going on the 7th episode last night.
Yeah, it was so hard not to.
The great thing about this show, right, is this is just the first season. Like, shows this good, like The Office, only get better each season. Like, this isn't really a show, from my memory at least, that peters out at any point. This show, the writing gets better because they start bringing in more of the Lou's and the other, like Garrity's life becomes more part of it, and they add other people to the house, and you start getting more and more. It's not, the show as it goes on is still about Tommy Gavin, but also becomes more and more about the crew, which is what you need. There's later on in the show, Franco and Tommy Gavin get into it because of Alex, how he feels, where Franco is an egotistical asshole. Like, he's too big, as my mom, rest her soul, would say, too big for your britches. Because she was white trash.
Looking forward as the cast, I see Lorenz Tate shows up. I actually like him.
Yes.
Yeah, one character, one leading character we didn't really talk about was Sean, who is Steven.
Sean, yeah.
Well, so one of the funniest scenes that happens to him is they just got done, putting out a fire in a building, and they're kind of standing around the truck, and they're looking over, and the guys they're clearly fucking with him.
Yeah.
They go, "Hey, that girl over there."
By the way, he is Garrity. That's Sean Garrity's his name, so I'm making the mistake of calling him Garrity.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
It's written on the back of their jackets.
Yeah. That's what they call him too. Like I think the only people that called him Sean were women. Like the crew only calls him Garrity.
Mm-hmm.
But so they're standing outside the fire truck, and they're like, "Oh yeah, she's checking you out." And they're like, "Don't look." And then he's just kind of like side looks over. So he goes over there. So then he starts going out with this girl. Unbeknownst to him, this is a transsexual male.
However, clear to everybody else somehow. Like everybody else calls it except him. He's so dopey.
Except for him, which he doesn't find out that it is a transsexual until like maybe their 3rd date where he's receiving oral.
Yeah, middle of a blowjob, he figures it out.
And he feels male parts down there.
Now,
did
he let him continue, or did he stop him, Jen?
No,
he let him continue.
He let him finish. Why? You don't want to be rude.
Yeah, you don't want to be rude.
You don't want to be rude to the guy.
That's exactly what he said too.
I love Jerry Riley, who's the chief, right?
Jerry Riley's so who is? So there's chief, and then who is the other guy? Lieutenant.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I love Jerry Riley's
Lieutenant too.
Reaction every time Sean comes back with like, yeah, we got to this base. He's like, oh,
yeah, he's just got this like, I can't think I'm gonna be sick. I can't think about him.
Tell you already.
I can't think about you with it. And then he goes, no, I let him finish, and he's like, I'm gonna pretend you didn't tell me that, and I'm gonna go. And then he tries to the whole prank. Oh, you talking about the prank?
No.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, go. I'm going to go into something different.
So he tells him he's going to prank Dennis Leary, tell him he's going to get married, and it's just the absolute wrongest time. Like, it just falls flat, and the Chief's just like, I didn't tell him nothing. Like, and he didn't tell him nothing.
It's just,
it's just a bad moment to try. Like, Tommy Gavin doesn't give a fuck.
But Sean,
like, at this point, he's like, I don't give a shit. Like, whatever. I got my own shit going on.
Sean's character is a fucking big dumb fucking.
Oh, he's fucking stupid as shit.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
And that's why Franco, I think, likes him, because Franco is smart and good looking. And Sean is good looking, but he's dumb as a box of rocks. So it's like Franco will always be able to snipe the chicks that Sean will never get because he's so fucking stupid and he doesn't have any game. Like, he's that dude that's like, you okay? You all right? Everything all right? Like, it's that guy.
It's insecure.
Yeah, very insecure and just dumb.
Yeah. So another character that we didn't touch on was Tommy's father. So Tommy has this weird relationship.
Patty O'Houlihan from Oh Brother Where Art Thou?
So I find it a little endearing with the scene with the phone conversation, the very first scene.
The subtitles.
Mm-hmm. Yes, with the subtitles. You know, because
that pops up later too.
Yeah.
As a woman, like that's no surprise. I'm sensitive. I'm emotional.
But you're a woman?
I can tell you that. But I can't imagine having heart-to-heart moments as a son with their father. So it is endearing that they do give you those little subtitles about what they're actually trying to say without saying it. With that being said, I was not expecting the father to I was not expecting Tommy's father though to just leave his home life with his wife of 47 years, was it?
I mean, okay, hold on. Let's be fair. He explains exactly how many times they've had sex in 46 years, and it is 9.
Yeah.
6 to procreate, 3 because one of them was around Christmas time, as he says. Like, the dude hasn't gotten any in 3 decades. It was in the 70s, he said.
And the other 2 that he doesn't talk about, it's like, it makes you think, well, is it he came home drunk and he demanded it?
Yeah, you never know.
That was also something too that happened way back then.
Also, this is the generation of where fathers didn't have real relationships with sons. Look at Riley's story about his dad off the force, retires, puts a gun in his mouth, doesn't finish the job, and when he goes, "Why the fuck would you do this? Like, we love you, Pop." He tells him, "Well, I couldn't be with my family." I'm like, "What are you talking about? We're right here." And the family was the job. The family was the guys. And, this highlights that these guys, the reason why Tommy and his father have those conversations that require the subtitles is because they don't have those conversations.
Mm-hmm. And I think that they connect better than him and Johnny do, simply because their father was a firefighter as well as Tommy.
I do think the relationship with Johnny is endearing. It's that relationship of like, the younger brother's got some pull. You're just a firefighter. I'm a fucking New York detective. Like, there is a certain kind of, I think, ego to Johnny as well. He's, he's slick. He's walking around like he's a slick dick. Like, he gives that image. And
always fucking eating.
Always eating. He is the younger brother. So I think there's a certain level of like gravitas maybe he gives himself. Because here, his older firefighter brother Tommy once again is chirping him for help. I think that will eventually develop at some point. I know that he does become more part of the show. I'll be honest, I don't remember. It's going to be one of those things where as I'm watching episodes, it's like glass that starts to fracture. I'll remember 3 seasons later what happens. It's like that sort of thing. But I love how the first 6 episodes are really giving you that omelet effect where it's like Lou's getting folded in, Johnny's folded in, the father's folded in, Lenny Clark is kind of there. Like Lenny Clark, by the way, if you're not familiar with him, the last time you've seen Lenny Clark was he was getting brutally fucking murdered by Michael Myers. Same guy. Yeah. So the show really is folding. They fold in Sheila, they fold in his godson, so all these characters in the first, there's a lot of people that you care about that gets thrown into this season and you're introduced to.
And you know what I think
and they do it in a good way though. It's not like, God damn it, who is this? It's like, oh fuck, who's Sheila? Tell Jimmy's wife, huh? Okay. Okay, Gary. Okay.
I think it's more and Matt and Alex will understand where I'm coming from because Matt grew up with us in very much in Italian, Hispanic, Irish family bonds are like that. That's the glue that it doesn't matter how fucked up it gets. Family bonds are the glue. And I feel like every time a character in the Gavin family interacts with a family member, you get that instantly. Like you don't have to know what's going on. Like when he's talking to his godson, it's his godson, right?
Yeah.
Technically, wouldn't it be also technically? Well, no, because Jimmy was his cousin. So what would that even, second cousin or nephew? Or I don't know how that works.
It's a second cousin. If it is blood related, if it's from his dad's side, it's a second cousin. If it was from the other side, it would be once removed.
I will also say to Giovanni's point, it hasn't. It's also come up as tight as the family dynamic is because that's how it is, and I think it's the same within the Hispanic and Italian communities. The families also become what restricts them from doing things too. Very much of like, if it wasn't for Tommy's family, he'd be pissed drunk every night in a different woman. Like, that's the thing, is like, the family is this so important. It's at the center of life, and it becomes the catalyst for everything, but it also becomes the catalyst for him trying to suppress all of his bad behavior. You know, it becomes both it's his burden, it's his love, it's his prison cell, it's his enlightenment. And that's the problem, is it's like you have your family, but then you've got the other family, which is the firefighter family, which is probably to a certain degree taking up just as much of that heart and that care. Like I'd imagine he cares just as much about if we're Lou to go down as he would Colleen getting in that car accident. The difference is he's sweet to Colleen, and Lou, once Lou pulls through, he'd probably bust his balls.
Yeah.
But it's all family. And I think a big part of the show is, for the firefighters at least, their stories, is specifically Tommy for sure, trying to balance the family from the other family. And which is more important, while also feeding your sex addiction, your alcohol addiction, and all that in between. This is another show, much like Sons of Anarchy, that does a really good job of like really pasta twisting the story, so every fucking fiber is integral to the overarching tale. The first 6 seasons have no stories that just kind of flutter off so far. Everything is connected into Tommy's behavior, which then splinters into the rest of his life. Nothing he does is ever kept under the rug yet. Even with his mental issues coming out in front of the guys now. There's nothing that you don't know essentially about Tommy yet, except for the real reasons they divorced, how deep that was, but that's different. But as far as you seeing the guy at face value, what you see with Tommy is generally what you get.
Yeah.
And I'd argue that's the same thing with Gafferty, with Sean. He's dumb, he's good looking, he's a firefighter. Franco is a egotistical sex addict. Jerry is a homophobic, tough guy, old school firefighter. The lieutenant is just trying to keep the house together because he's on constant pressure from the up-above. Tommy's an alcoholic. Lou is no respect at the home.
Oh no, that's the chief. That's the chief trying to keep it. Lou is
no. Lou and chief is no. The lieutenant is the one trying to keep the house together because he's the one who's always like. Lou? No. Lou is not the lieutenant.
Yeah, he's lieutenant. He's lieutenant.
Okay, so when you guys told me that, you guys told me
Paroli is the
guy that
overarching chief
that drank the piss.
That's who I'm talking about because I was confused. So Chief Paroli, he's not even a bad guy, but he's clearly got political pressures on him, and he's got a group of guys that like to say faggot and fucking, and they're rough and tumble, and they're not professional, but they do a good fucking job. So it's this whole mix of like, I don't know if this show works without any one of these characters, especially from the get-go. It's like you get the image of this is these guys' territory, and they're going to behave how they behave.
So just looking ahead at the cast members in the series, I'm looking forward. I think Matt will be too. Adam Ferreira from the U.S.
He is another house's chief.
Hi.
He's an old school buddy of Dennis Leary's. He's good in it too. Linky, what you doing?
I've gone to party.
He's like, "We guys doing a podcast?"
Yeah, I was watching it with you. Very good stuff.
Hi,
Very good stuff.
You're on camera, buddy.
My name's Link. We're going to review some doggo bones.
He looks right at the camera.
Watching some Paw Patrol.
Paw Patrol.
But yeah, it's this show is so well done that I think the greatest thing this show does is immediately make you give a shit about the characters.
Yeah, absolutely.
From 10 minutes in, you're like, fuck, I'm invested.
Yep.
Now,
yeah, and I feel like TV shows need to have that strong first episode. It's very hard to do.
And this is by far one of the strongest.
Oh yeah,
like this is just as strong as Breaking Bad episode 1, just as strong as Sopranos episode 1. Those iconic fucking shows that people love all had strong first episodes. Literally, Breaking Bad's first episode begins with him in his underwear in the desert with a shot up RV.
Yeah,
other shows, Dexter. Literally, the show starts. The very first episode starts with him. He's got a priest or a choir leader. And he is in his room about ready to kill him, and he unwraps 3 boy skeletons that this guy had buried. The first 10 minutes of the episode. So think about the greatest shows ever, and I think this, even though maybe it's a little older now, so it's not necessarily talked about like that, but it should be always talked about as like, when somebody asks me, what shows like are the greatest shows ever and why? I'd say Rescue Me is up there. A, the smart writing. B, from the very first episode, I was forced to give a shit about everybody. I had no choice. That's what my mind chose to do. Because you presented them in such a likable and real way, I'm already invested by episode 1, who these people are and their stories and the struggles.
I'm actually really glad that I am watching this for the first time years after it had aired so that I don't have to go through the agony of waiting a week and then waiting, over the break.
Have you guys all watched The Shield?
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Waiting the week for the next episode, for the next episode of The Shield, when Shane gets killed with the grenade towards the end of the show.
Oh my God.
Was like, they just fucking killed Shane, and then it's like, next week. It's like, no! Binge watching is the greatest fucking thing in the world.
Yeah, I love it.
I was watching that from the beginning, and you guys all jumped on it with the fucking with the DVDs, and then you guys caught up.
No, I watched Shield when it was on. I watched it from the moment it started.
Okay, because I remember when we were at work, you guys were always like, "Who's got the disc? Who's got the disc?" Like,
that's because they had just released them, and even now all right. I refuse to spend certain amounts of money on certain things. They remastered the Shield on Blu-ray. You can get it. It's like $80 for the entire series. Mm-hmm. However, my advice is go to Hulu because those 1080p remasters are on Hulu. It's not the old 480p ones. It's the actual 1080p remasters. But I watched it when it was first on. And then when the DVDs came out, because that was that era of like, if you didn't watch it, people who did watch it, like you and I, Alex, were like, you need to fucking watch The Shield. Like, you don't, like, really? Because I think Arthur at that point was like, oh, I love 24. Yeah. That was like his show, and we were like, no, the fucking Shield's the shit, dude. And it was just like, well, I like, it's like, you don't know what you're missing then. Mm-hmm. And then there was a lot of, in the Blockbuster days, there was a lot of bandwagon jumping on a lot of different ends, including mine of like, oh, that's good, huh? And then you would watch it and be like, yeah, it was okay. It was one of those things like, I'm highly disappointed because it's 3 a.m. I got off of work and came home and watched the movie, and it's just okay. Like, I remember being, like, Arthur would hype shit, and you would watch it, and you would walk away and be like, is this guy fucking stupid? Like it was...
a lot of the recommendations from him, I'd just be like, okay.
Yeah, well, the problem is you couldn't get a copy because he would steal it after he recommended it. Now, anyways, for the new people, Giovanni, shut up! For the new people...
God damn it! You're always yelling at me.
Right? Just camera off. Yeah, there we go. What if you did that, but the whole time you still talked? Like, I don't want to be out of the episode. For the people who've never watched the show, we'll start with Alex. First impressions on the first 6 episodes.
I enjoyed it. That first episode is very heavy, and I do know a firefighter, so I do know how he's explained things to us when we were on our camping trips and shit. And it's 100% of what he described in their real life, and it's just it makes you care, and it makes you understand why people do the things they do in that profession.
Well, also think about dudes who don't get paid for it in small towns that just volunteer to do this.
My cousin is a volunteer fireman in Michigan.
Like, that's balls of steel. Like,
and he's had to pull people out of, dead people out of.
That's real life hero shit. Like, if you're a volunteer firefighter and you work a 9 to 5, and then on your weekend you're like, hey, if shit goes down, I'm here. That's fucking hero. I don't care what you want to call. That's hero.
He's on call 7 days a week.
Yeah, so I'm assuming he's got a career beyond that, or is that what he does?
He's got a thing called the Paddy Wagon. They serve food.
Okay, so he legitimately has his own small business.
Yeah. And
at any point, he can go, all right, guys, I got to leave. I'll be right back.
Yep.
And go fight a fire. That's hero. That's a hero. But and here's the thing. It does show that, like we were talking, like on the outside, but it's changed a little bit. On the outside, your average person, oh, thank you, for your service, like the hard job. But the wives are just kind of like, you think you're big shit. You know what I mean? It's a weird dynamic they express in the show.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, look at Lou. Like, all he wants is his wife to read some of his feelings, essentially, and talk to him. That's what he needs. Mm-hmm. He needs his wife to communicate and say, I love you. I didn't know you were feeling this way. I'm here for you. What can I do? And instead, she rips him up.
Yeah, she has the, like, don't fucking start with me attitude.
Like, I'm like, I'm reading this shit. You sit there and wait while I read it. And he's like, how is it? I'm not done. And it's like, he just wants to share himself with you, you fucking bitch.
And all Jerry wants is his wife to go to sleep before he does.
Yeah, I mean, Jerry is that guy that he's his father, where his guys are his family, and his wife is she's the one who sits at home and nags them to redecorate.
But there is that part where she does say that she's going to fix the button, and he does. She goes, "Are you going to come to bed?" And he does get up.
Yeah,
but it's still kind of one of those like, fuck.
I will say I do that with Jen occasionally, but it's more like last night I recorded In Nothing We Trust. Check it out on Spotify. I recorded that, and then I woke her up because she unfortunately has to fall asleep in the bedroom when I'm recording because I'm really loud.
The living room,
and I'm in the bedroom. And so I wake her up, I was like, go to bed. But I wasn't done yet. My mind is still going. So I sat down on the chair and I was like, she's like, you coming to bed? Or it's like fucking 3:30 in the morning. I'm like, yeah, I'll be there in a minute. And it's got nothing to do with her falling asleep. It's just, though I can understand if you're a firefighter, it could be 4 a.m, you're going to need to wind down. There's the humans that need a certain wind down period where it's like you can't just go from 100 to 0. That's not how it works. And that's how I explain it, where it's like I could be 5 a.m, there's still a ramp down period. How quick that is depends on how tired you are. If you're dead beat, then the ramp down is you sit down on the couch and 5 minutes later you're like, all right, I need to go to bed. But
that's me most of my 12 plus hour days at work.
So you got to wonder how, and I do feel the chief's problem really is the job is his life. And that's all his life is.
Yeah, that's all he knows. Yeah. And when they started threatening that from him, like, yeah, of course he's going to go off the rails. Like, you're taking everything he knows from him. The
only thing really, I mean, he cares about other things, but the only thing in his tunnel vision is that firehouse. And that's why the 60-day suspension was such a travesty, because it's probably a mix of like, how the fuck can you do this to me? I've been a firefighter for 20 years. And it's
he even says that too to the lawyer.
But it's also a mix of like, what the fuck am I going to do for 60 days not being here?
Yeah, and I mean, that's why he shows up on the second day of his suspension. Yeah. He's like, can't I just get a cup of coffee? Like, how many fucking
he just wants to say hi to the boys.
There in New York City. Like,
he just wants to hang out and be with his family. You're literally, it's like telling like, oh, you can't be with your family. Alex, sorry, you're suspended. You cannot go with your wife and kids anywhere. You cannot have time with them. Like, that's what they're doing to him by the suspension.
Yep. Exactly.
So you're literally, Alex is over here like, I don't know, I would take 60 days. I'd be okay with that. 60 days of quiet.
And if you notice through the whole argument, he didn't give it, like they were threatening his pension. He didn't care. He was more pissed about not being there.
They could take his pension, but if they could take whatever they want as long as they leave him on the job.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he doesn't care about vacation. Like the 60 days suspension was the issue much more than the vacation. Like he's like, I fucking 7 days. Like, it was the idea of like, fuck, what am I gonna do? Like, what am I gonna do with 60 days?
It was also that he was right though. I mean, he didn't go there with.
Well, he was wrong.
Fighting something.
He went there with the intent. He is a homophobe. His relationship with his son proves it. He did go there with the intention of confrontation. He did go there with anger. But the guy threw the first punch, so it's legally that should have been self-defense. But once again, you stepped into a gay bar. You're going to be perceived as bashing a gay man because you're going to be perceived as attacking him because they all in that gay bar know who that guy is. He was a regular. It showed it. So, of course, that bar is going to be on that guy's side.
Right.
It's a very stupid decision built upon ego is the problem. This like, these are firemen, goddammit. Who are you to talk? And it's like, you need to remove that thought process because that's why you're going to lose your career. Like, and I think his son's whole comment of next time you beat up a gay man, don't call me, is a perfect, like, kind of like, get your shit together. Like, you're way too old to be doing this. You're a fucking civil servant. And his issues are definitely, and I don't think those issues are PTSD from the job. I think those issues are PTSD from his upbringing. Specifically when you have the story about his father. I think he is his father in that his wife could die, and as long as he's got the guys, he'd be okay.
Right.
Yeah. That's so true. And you know what? After watching Jerry's reaction, I don't know how many of you thought about this, but I thought about, like, honestly, after 9/11, how many police officers, firefighters, first responders were put into Jerry's shoes? Like, this is all I got left.
Oh, beyond that, how many killed themselves?
Like,
there was a lot of suicides post 9/11. Not only that, how many of the poor guys died of cancer, still dying of cancer? 9/11 did a lot more, and this is one of the things that I applaud Jon Stewart for, because he's been behind the scenes for fucking 20 years now,
Yep.
saying these guys deserve a lot more than we give them. And so I applaud him for that. So it's like, this show does a great job of highlighting that, like, despite the fact that these guys are heroes and they should be hailed as such and civil servants, they're still kind of left out there on their own.
Yep.
That's all they have is each other, because there's no one else backing them up. Hell, they got the competition between them and the NYPD.
Oh, Jesus.
There's no brotherhood there. It's you're either red or blue.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so there's unspoken code, like when it gets to the co-captain of the hockey team seeing if Sheila wanted to go on a date.
Mm-hmm.
And Dennis Leary beat the shit out of him, and then when it gets back to it, and the other crew is talking about, well, you stepped over the line. You don't do that. You're breaking the code.
Yep.
You know, so it's that's which.
Oh, when Sean and Nez.
No, when they were playing hockey, and he talked to Sheila, and she he called me and asked me if I wanted to go out on a date, and it was the guy that he was co-coaching the hockey, the asshole on the hockey team. That was like just being like, I'm the captain of this team.
That happened in the first six.
Yeah, that's the first six.
Yeah, that's first six. But the conversation in the firehouse was because Sean slept with Franco's ex.
Yes,
and he's like, you can look at her ass. You can, maybe get a little touchy-feely in there.
You could grab his sister's ass. But
you could flirt, but you can't take him home and sleep with them.
And that's why, like,
was hilarious.
When Sheila does kiss him, Tommy almost has a repulsive, like, get the fuck off me. Like, he's a womanizer, he's a drunk, but because Jimmy was not only his cousin, but his firefighter brother, it's like, you need to get the fuck off me. Like, you're Jimmy's ex-wife. And I even like when he's talking to Jimmy's ghost, and he goes, your ex-wife, and he goes, not ex-wife, widow. There's a difference. And he's right. Jen, we haven't gotten to your first impressions of the first 6 episodes of the show.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good show so far. Matt likes to point out that he has a great record so far at introducing me to shows that he loves and he knows that I will love as well. Dexter, Sons of Anarchy, Breaking Bad, just a few examples. I do remember the last time he was watching this and he was just kind of like explaining to me everything that was going on. So it's kind of like, I know some storylines that are coming up, but I don't know them well enough for anything to be spoiled for me. It has been a really good 6 episodes, though. I mean, the one where Colleen got into a car accident, I was like, don't tell me they're going to do this to us. Like, what the hell?
Well, when he does the dream where the kids are dead, Jen's like, they're not fucking killing them. She's like, they're not dead. This is a dream,
and
right?
He just sat there in silence, letting me fucking ponder and worry and contemplate about what the hell's going to happen next.
You need to experience it that way. I'm not giving cheat codes for TV shows.
I've watched this before, Jen, and that when he turns around and all his ghosts are there, and the daughter's at the end, I was like, you motherfuckers. Like, I was yelling at the TV. Like,
yes.
So now, does that mean that that's just his self-confidence almost like glitching? Or is that she did pass away maybe while in the hospital and then was resuscitated? They don't say.
Yeah, but they said that she was fine. They're still working on her.
Which I don't like that whole situation, because literally when she goes to the hospital, it's like, she might die. And then the next episode, it's like, oh, she's got a bandage on her head and she's just fine. Like, there's way too much seriousness given to it to build drama. That's maybe the one part of the first 6 episodes I didn't like, was her car accident was so over dramatized that, like, the end result is, oh, she was just a couple bumps and she's fine.
I think the drama of it was well done at the crash site, because that's her father. Yeah. And they're like, hey, you need to calm down. You need to stay level-headed. You're on the job.
Yeah.
That made sense. But when they got to the hospital, that bullshit.
Well,
you
also,
see in every show.
It was very close to the dream. You had all of his guys. You had the chief going, Tommy, relax, calm down, Tommy. And then he's calling over. He's going, get over here. He knows what's coming. A lot like how the dream played out. So in Tommy's mind, he just lived this the other day. And now he's living it in real life.
Yeah.
Combine that with the alcoholism and the ghosts he's already seeing, I'd imagine that would take a heavy immediate toll.
Yeah.
One event that happened in, I believe it was the last episode that I didn't see coming, or at least the person who did this I didn't see coming, was when somebody threw a Molotov cocktail into Tommy's house. I honestly thought it was Roger getting, and it's ironically the episode name is called Revenge. I thought it was Roger getting revenge on him for Tommy putting him into jail or whatever. Turns out it's a crazy stalker.
Karen, yeah.
Horror
As soon as it happened, as soon as it happened, I was like, it's her. I was like, it's the girl.
See, I thought it was Roger and his little.
I thought it was another dream.
Friends.
Yeah.
I thought so too. That's what I
first,
thought.
I was like, he's dreaming.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
But
too.
when he ran upstairs, I knew it wasn't a dream because he got him out. And you see the kids.
Yeah, when you
leaving.
see the kids,
Mhm.
yeah.
And I was like, okay. I was like, it's the girl. I was like, it's the jealous.
Well, then he gets back to the house, and the chief's like, I hate to tell you this, but I tried to chase her down, but some blonde threw a brick through your windshield.
Mhm.
It's just like, oh fuck.
You want me to call the cops?
And he did,
like,
yeah,
no.
didn't even press charge. He's like, God damn it, no, I'll take.
Well,
care
I like
of
how
it.
he tries to act like the adult. Like, no, I'm gonna let Roger go. I don't need that. We don't need that in our family's lives. And it's like, you set this whole thing up, you psychopath.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So it's a great show so far. I can't wait to watch the rest of the season, the rest of the series. I can't wait to see what happens. I'm not going to say what I know, but I just can't wait for the one storyline that Matt has talked to me extensively about to come in.
We'll have to talk off
with
air
the
about
mentally challenged character.
Giovanni, the chick Franco Cian's brother.
It's going to be interesting to see how we can talk about that in a politically correct manner. So,
and I'm glad you bring that up, Jen, because this show, for what it was, could not be made today.
Oh gosh, I mean the backlash it received for a white Irish machismo bravado main character to be saying these words and being a womanizer. Yeah, I don't know how. I mean, but you couldn't make friends today.
That's true. Oh my God, that's so true. I will tell you, watching this show in the first six episodes, I've seen the show before and little tidbits are coming back to me, but I'm glad it's been long enough to where I'm still surprised. I'm still coming through. I'm still seeing things I like. But the way they are and the way they talk in these first 6 episodes, if anybody today ever watched it, be like, oh, they're all homophobic. They all hate gay people. They all just want macho men. That's not true. And you can see it in Tommy's conversation with the shrink, because he told her, I don't give a shit what gender, color, I don't give a shit what you are. If you can come in here and do this job, then you're right by me. And that's absolutely true. And I feel that through the first 6 episodes in watching it.
Also, I mean, Dennis Leary gets 2 solid scenes of real acting, like as far as like that one with the shrink, and then the one in the church where he's basically like, talking to his cousin. He goes, if he takes my little girl, I'm gonna need to know why.
Yeah, I need answers.
And Tommy, you could see the struggle because he's talking to this, and he had no interest in telling her his emotions. But he figures, I'm gonna tell this woman, I'm gonna tell her what it's really fucking like, and it's forget 9/11, and he tells her that story almost with you get that feeling he's telling her to basically have her go, oh fuck, I'm out of here. Like that, he's telling her that story to go, fuck off, you don't know, you're out of your element, Donnie. Yeah. And I think what happens in that scene is it goes from him being basically like fuck you to oh shit, I just spilled emotion. Like it's he starts the tears and he starts to sniffle, and it becomes what the therapy is supposed to be without him wanting it to be, and that's why at the end of it he expresses anger. In his head it was I'm gonna shut this bitch up, and by the end of the conversation it's fuck, I just told her how I was feeling.
Also because he knows that the guys were listening.
Yeah. So then when he walks away, he kicks the table. He's pissed. He's like, fuck, I showed a softer side of me than I ever wanted anyone to see, including my family.
And not only that, though, I love that scene because those guys standing behind the door listening, the look on their faces was, I understand.
They know the story. Yeah. Like the chief,
the Chief's Franco.
No, well, the chief, exactly. He walks away. He's like, oh, fuck this. He's going to talk about his feelings. I'm not a bitch. But the Chief's face has that look of like, I know what story he's talking about. Like as soon as he starts telling it, it's that look of like, oh, not the black kid. Like, because he knows that they all know that that's something in Tommy's sad repertoire.
But I love that they have in how, in how rough they are and how dark their comedy is and how tough they are and like, you know, feelings are bullshit. I love that they have that level of respect for him and the job, that they don't make fun of him about it. You don't see that later on in the show. They don't bother him.
Well, you notice there's certain things, like even at the end of this, I think episode 6, after the chief is cleared with his son, they're ripping on him a little bit of making gay jokes that his kid's gay.
Bar, yeah.
Yep.
But you don't ever, like, it's weird how they treat, like, that thing is not off limits. That subject is something to be busting balls about because nobody really cares. That's the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody has any emotional attachment, no hatred for the fact that Chief's son is gay. But they know the chief has a problem with it, so they're going to bust his balls.
Exactly. Yep.
You don't, you know, when I'm going back to Lou's reaction when he sees Tommy that was talking to the dead girl. That reaction is not of something like, oh, we can bust his balls on it. That's a what the fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Like those, they know there's a certain seriousness of like, this shouldn't be brought up. The only one that should ever bring these things up is the person that experienced it. You should not know this happened or this is bothering that person unless they tell you. You know, it's almost like those are his demons and it's not our business to talk about. And it's like an unwritten understanding of, you know, all of these guys got ghosts. It's just Tommy's the main character and Tommy's actually seeing his.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's do anything to wrap up the first 6 episodes and then we'll get the hell out of here.
Yeah. I'm ready to start the next 7.
I know, I am too.
Yeah.
Starting them
same.
after we're done here.
7.
All right. I'm glad that Alex and Jen are getting to experience this show. This is how I'm going to force both of them to watch shows I want to watch. I'm going to be like, let's do a show about it. So now
I'm not going
to
to watch Sopranos. Though. I can't stand it.
Really?
Yeah, I never.
Really, you don't like Sopranos?
How much have you ever watched of it?
I watched more than half of it, and I did not like any of it as I was watching.
Really, I love The Sopranos. I've only
As
seen
an
it once,
Italian, I take offense to that.
You know, I love that show. I will argue that I will say that's a really good first episode show too. Yeah, I don't know. I love that. That's interesting. You'll have to be out of that series if we do that one.
Yep.
But there is
I
more
agree.
shit. Like there's other shit
Yep.
like shows that Sopranos is a show everybody talks about.
It is.
Bates
Yeah.
Motel isn't. You know, shows like that, I think, to where you can also deep dive because there's also lore, you know, to the whole psycho lore, and this one's a deep show. Bates Motel would be an entertainment show. Like this is a show where you break it down and you're dealing with real life shit. Bates Motel is more of a show where we'd be able to get into the fantasy of the characters as opposed to, you know, it's not a grounded as a firefighter. It's not a real life profession. Nobody really ever moves to a small town and opens a motel. You know, it's that sort of shit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so this is the first 6 episodes. Next episode we'll be wrapping up the season, the second half of it. And that's how we're going to go on. Each episode, for now at least, will be half the season. If we decide that we want to do, you know, 2 episodes a month still, but we want to just do the whole season in it to maybe quicken the pace to get other shows on deck, we'll discuss that. But you know, they're 44 minutes long, so 12 episodes is a good chunk of time to dedicate. So it's all about if we can do that in a week, in 2 weeks, that's one thing. If not, then it stays the same format it is. But yeah, we hope you enjoyed. We'll be coming back next time with the second half of season 1 of Rescue Me. With we've got the 2 version analyses and Giovanni and I plowing through our broken memories. So yeah, I'm gonna sign out. I'm Matt.
I'm Jen.
I'm
Ronnie,
Alex.
That's Alex.
I'm Satan.
Oh, I didn't know if he was frozen or not. Giovanni's just.
I was just waiting.
All right, we will see you guys next time. Thank you for watching. Smash that like button.